All right, we are back here on a Saturday, Busted Open Nation. I am Ryan McKinnell. That is Mark Henry. And that's right, it is a Halloween edition of Busted Open. So I figured I'd call in some favors. I'd scan the old Rolodex, and I'd catch up with my brother, one of my most beloved family members. I don't know where he's a globetrotter, man. He's all over the world. He's been in Spain recently, Brazil. I think he's in Scotland right now, handling some cases. We welcome in right now Chris McKinnell. Yeah, I said it. My brother. He is the director of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. Brother Chris McKinnell. And also, brother, for how many people I was spending the first part of the show explaining, you are the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the basis of the entire Conjuring / Annabelle universe.
Absolutely. Very happily so. Very proud to be.
Yeah. So welcome in. I know Halloween is obviously a big time for you. It's a scary time, but I mean, brother, your whole life is kind of scary. I know this. The listeners don't know this. You are Ed and Lorraine's grandson, but you've been involved in the world of paranormal research. I mean, since I've been alive, I'm 37 years old. I don't know a world, right, without my big brother kind of representing this sort of the world. So yeah, kind of fill our listeners in on your background and what you've been doing these last 30 plus years.
Actually 40 now. It's 40 years this past summer I've been doing this.
Wow.
So what I do is I help educate the public. I help people with their problems. If they're having paranormal problems or if they believe they're having paranormal problems, they come to the Warren Legacy Foundation. And we first spend a great deal of time trying to diagnose the problem, make sure that what we're dealing with is paranormal and not psychological or trauma related or just leaking pipes or crazy raccoons. Because that happens an awful lot, but 5% of the time, the calls we get are real and they can be quite deadly. And so we've got a worldwide network of dedicated professionals that will help these families, these individuals with their problems. We don't charge to help them. We don't publicize our cases. We don't share the details of our clients with the public because we treat this more like a medical profession.
And which is, I would imagine.
I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I met a lady in Orlando probably about 10 years ago that told me that I had my grandfather followed me and that she could see and talk, and she talked to him and said that, this is some really creepy stuff to me, but I mean, like he said that he was your best friend and that y'all live next door to each other. And I'm thinking, my best friend live next, and I realized from the description that she gave of who he was and the hat that he wore, that it was my grandfather. And my son wore those hats, and he used to tell us all the time when he was really little that he spoke to this little boy named David, which used to scare the hell out of me, and that he wanted to have a hat like Pawpaw's. And I had never said Pawpaw. That's what we call my grandfather.
Wow.
I had never said that to him before. And he was like, Pawpaw. And I was like, you know Pawpaw? He was like, yes. And I'm like, damn. All right, now I got to move.
And that was the moment Mark Henry was out of all things paranormal.
Oh, man.
Well, Mark, I got to tell you, my friend, unfortunately, moving wouldn't do a darn thing. He wasn't haunting a house. He was protecting you and your family. He's a guardian spirit. And that is an incredibly ordinary experience. There's nothing terribly creepy about it. Children can see ghosts. It's perfectly normal. They're far more open to these things up until they're about 7 years old. And mediums, I work with some of the best in the world. We've got a psychic support group that currently helps over 700 people right now, all around the world. from different religions, different languages, it doesn't matter. And I have seen them talk with people who've passed on. It's perfectly normal. You shouldn't be afraid of it. You know, honestly, Mark, I was afraid of the dark until I was 16 years old. Until I went on my first case, I could not sleep without a light on. I would go insane with fear. And I went on my first case, which was one of these over-the-top poltergeist cases where things are flying around, pop through there at my head. Two hulking black shapes came down the stairs and just glowered over us. The woman screamed, her face was on fire, and we looked and she had 3 claw marks appear on her left cheek and blood dripping down onto her chest. And the lights started going on and off. The door locked and we couldn't get out because, believe me, I wanted to get out by that point. And
I want to leave right now.
I'm looking. Mark's literally shifting in his chair, like he's just like he's gonna take a big shit. Like he's like, I'm gonna leave now. Sorry, brother. Continue.
But my point is this, and then after I got out of the chair and I got to the front door and it was locked, then the chair followed me across the room.
That's fun.
It just tumbled on its own halfway across the room. It was a recliner. And I escaped with the woman of the house, left my grandfather sitting in there all by himself. And honest to God, from that moment on, I've never been afraid of the paranormal or much of anything else again. If you want to get over your fears, I have 2 cases in Vegas right now, and I can use a good, strong man to help on them. One of them is a possible exorcism case. And what do you say? You ready to join us, Mark?
Let's go, Mark. Let's go.
No,
Let's
I'm
go.
not.
Come on, man. Let's go to the exorcism.
I want to show you something. Like, this is my grandfather's pipe. I take it everywhere with me. And he smoked this from the time he was 30 until he passed away when I was 21. And I didn't want nothing except for his pipe because I used to love the way the pipe smell. And I've only smoked it about 4 or 5 times. I'm more of a cigar guy, but I take this with me all the time, and it just reminds me of all those, like, me and him playing and him trying to, and he was a joker. Like, he used to try to, like, if he could scare you, he would try to scare you. Like, you know, hiding behind trees and stuff and waiting for people to walk by. Hey, what you doing there? Like, he was a funny guy.
So basically what you did last night, Mark, you were carrying
basically
on the
what I
tradition.
did last night. So in honor of Pawpaw, you know, Andrew Young, the first, like, yeah, I did it big.
I love
but
that.
I paid the price last night in my sleep.
We're here with
that is not unusual. You were giving recognition to your grandfather. Whenever families get together for holidays, or if for a wedding or a funeral or anything, any gathering, you're remembering your loved ones and they are drawn to you. It's called the law of attraction. It's recognition. It works all the time. I actually had a case in Philadelphia with a woman who was a wedding minister. And she owned her own little chapel, but her abilities were so out of control that she had to ask her assistant to count the number of people sitting in the seats waiting for the funeral. Because when she'd look out there, she saw all the dead people as well, and she couldn't figure out who was alive and who was dead.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's wild.
All right.
Okay. All right. So hold on. We're here with Chris McKinnell, director of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. Chris is also my brother, half brother, and his grandparents, not my side of the family, but his grandparents are Ed and Lorraine Warren of the famed Conjuring universe. All right, brother Chris. You'll attest to this. I'm not really in the paranormal world. I knew Ed and Lorraine, obviously. It's our family. I mean, you know, I obviously knew them, but you were their next in line. You were, you went on all these cases with them. You lived in the house with the Annabelle doll in the museum. I know you have tons of stories.
Time out.
Yes,
what?
Mark?
You lived in the house? that the doll, like the movie?
Yeah, although the real Annabelle is a raggedy.
Oh, please tell me about this. I mean, you didn't get hurt or nothing. Like it wasn't like the
No,
movie for real, was it?
no, I've grown up with Annabelle since I was about 3 years old. Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll. The Annabelle movies are completely false. There's nothing
Okay.
true about them. The true story of
All right.
Annabelle is told, I believe, in Conjuring 2. It's the story of the nurses who had been given the doll by one of their mothers, and this was the late 60s. They would sit it at the table with them, and they just played up how cute it was. And one day, the doll raised its arms and put them on the table while they were eating dinner.
Nope.
Back then, the supernatural was this thing that everybody was excited about in the late 60s. So they got a medium who came in and did a seance, and it said the spirit told them it was the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle who had been killed in a car accident in front of the house, and she was just looking for somebody to love her. Complete and absolute lie. But it was a lie that worked. It created an emotional attachment with this doll for the girls. And they bought it bracelets and other jewelry. They would take it to bed with them, carry it with them around the house, just to make sure that she wouldn't get lonely. Then they started finding pieces of parchment with messages in crayon written in the house. And they started feeling really creepy when they were alone in the house. One afternoon, one of the girls' boyfriends was sleeping on the couch. It was a Sunday afternoon. And he woke up startled and he said, I just dreamed that Annabelle was on top of me, choking me to death. And he got up and he went over to the doll, threw it across the room, and he said, you're just a stupid doll. You couldn't hurt anyone. Now, he shouldn't have said that. Immediately, 3 claw marks raked across his chest, opening him up. That was when the nurses realized that whatever they were dealing with was not a little girl, and they absolutely needed help. They contacted the Roman Catholic Church. The church contacted Ed and Lorraine. My grandmother, as soon as she saw the doll, realized they were dealing with something demonic, and it was taken to their house. About a year later, they had not yet realized that they had to segregate this thing and surround it with prayers and holy items so that it couldn't hurt people. And a friend of ours, Father Bill Charbonneau, came to visit. He had a brand new car. It was a convertible. And he was excited. He wanted to show it to my grandparents. And afterward, he said, Ed, I hear you've got this doll that attacks people. And my grandfather said, yes, Father, it's downstairs. Would you like to see it? And they went down to the basement, and Father Bill walks right up to Annabelle, picks it up, throws it across the room, and says, God is more powerful than the devil. And my grandfather looked at him, and he said, yes, Father, God is more powerful than the devil, but no man is. That evening, Father Bill was going home in his brand new convertible, and a halo of light came out of the sky straight at his car. And he swore before it was about to hit him that he could see Annabelle in the center of the light. And he veered off the road and into a ditch. The car was completely totaled and his leg was broken. There are plenty of other stories of Annabelle. Annabelle is definitely not something you mess with. But for the past 40 years, 45 years, Annabelle has not been able to hurt anyone. We have got it locked down and you have nothing to fear.
Wow. I think, Mark, I'm reacting to this and I'm saying, wow, but it is because I've never heard these stories. Chris, you'll attest to this. We don't talk about the paranormal all that much.
Well,
I've kind of
there's a reason for not talking about it. People like to go to sleep at night.
Yeah, I guess there's probably some truth to that,
and
Mark.
not wake up sweating to where you have to turn your pillow over because it was wet.
Now,
I don't have that problem. I'm sorry.
Now, Chris, let me ask you this. You said Annabelle, most of it was false. Why not tell the real story? Why do you think that story with the father, with the history, was it just not as enticing? What do you think the reasoning was?
I don't know why Hollywood does what it does.
Yeah.
When you sell the rights to a story, they can do whatever they want with it. And James Wan is a terrific writer, director, producer. The Conjuring 1 was fairly accurate. Conjuring 2, he took a lot of liberties with. He combined the Amityville horror, which was a very real case, with another case, a famous case in England called the Enfield case. There was no actual connection there. There was no nun demon named Valak. That whole thing with the nun is incorrect as well. Never happened. That whole movie is ridiculous. The only part about the nun that's true, there's a character in there called Frenchie. And at the end of the movie, it's revealed that his name is Maurice Theriault. And I was actually on that case with Maurice. Maurice was a man who came under possession. He was a French Canadian, completely illiterate. He would come under possession and have tremendous strength, like you couldn't imagine. Words would appear in blood, etched in his back in French, and nobody else in his family spoke French. They'd read it to him, and he'd have to translate it.
Nope.
I was there at his exorcism. As a matter of fact, my grandfather had a heart attack during that exorcism. This is serious stuff, and for anybody who's interested in the paranormal, it's not a hobby. It really isn't. And
that's something you always told me. That's Chris. That's something you always told me.
Yeah. It's a very serious profession. You're dealing with people's lives and their well-being. These TV shows where they go in, they stir up trouble so they can get stuff on tape and then they leave. Unbelievably irresponsible. For me, my only purpose isn't to gather evidence, it's to help the family I serve. Period.
Wow. Well, I'm at a loss for words. All I can think of is, like, why would people mess with stuff that don't want to be messed with in the first place? You just said they're not looking for trouble. It's people that
they're looking for trouble. They're looking for trouble. They want the trouble. People will do the craziest things. They will bring haunted items that have been cursed into other hauntings just so they can see what reaction they'll get. People are foolhardy and they are willing to put other people at risk. Even when you just go into a abandoned building or you do one of these paranormal tours, if you're one of the wrong people, one of the vulnerable people, you can easily pick something up and bring it home with you. Have an attachment, as they're called.
Well,
have you ever heard of the Bragg light in Texas, Bragg, Texas?
No, I can't say that I have, at least not off the top of my head. I've probably forgotten more than I ever knew.
Yeah, if you Google the Bragg, Texas, there's apparently a murder happened where somebody was tied to railroad tracks. And the woman haunts that area, and I've heard at least from 5 or 6 people that I know that they go, like you say, these dumbass people that go to places like that are extremely haunted, and they want to find out if it's real or not. I don't have to know that. I have to see it to know that it's real. Because you can't see the air, but your ass can breathe.
Exactly.
So I don't need to see.
My job isn't to convince people. My job's to warn people, like seances, Ouija boards, things like that. Any form of spirit communication can be dangerous because all you're doing is opening a door and ringing the dinner bell. And if you're somebody who's in a bad place in your life, you're going to attract something dark. My grandmother used to say, like attracts like. If you put out positive energy, you'll get something positive back. If you put out negative energy, that's what you get. Teenagers using a Ouija board, it's a recipe for disaster because with all their pent-up emotions and things out of control and brand new for them, it's a dangerous time to be trying to do something like that.
Chris, we're here with Chris McKinnell, the director of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. Got a couple producers here. We got Andre and Guns. They're very interested in this. They're fans of the Conjuring universe. They got some questions for you. Andre, shoot, go ahead, my guy.
All right, I got 2 questions here for you, Chris. First one is what measures do you take to be spiritually safe as you enter these cases? And my second
Except
one is...
Jesus.
And my second question is, if you have like some senses, like as growing up and even now, like I feel I've seen a ghost before, and hear different things like voices and whatnot. I just want to know how to unlock the senses even more.
Okay.
What?
Let me answer that second question first.
Mark's gone. Mark's gone. Mark just got up. He's out. Mark just...
Mark literally walked away.
Yeah,
He's
Mark's
gone.
gone. He's getting a drink. I think he's making a smoothie or something. Go ahead, Chris.
Poor Mark.
Poor Mark.
The truth, we have a psychic support group, like I mentioned earlier. This is for people who only people who are empathic or psychic or mediums. In other words, people who are sensitives.
Yeah.
And they pick up on other people's energy. They pick up on spirits. They can see auras, whatever it is. There are many, many different gifts. And many of them are as individual as fingerprints. But they do exist. I mean, I have seen the most amazing things. And if you're interested in developing your abilities, then come to the Warren Legacy Foundation Psychic Support Group. It's on Facebook. Find us there, and we'll be happy to help you out.
Sweet.
As for your first question, how do I personally protect myself, or how does anyone? I've been lucky, as Ryan said. I've lived all over the world. I've lived on 5 continents, over a dozen countries. I've dealt with every major religion in the world, and the paranormal presents itself differently everywhere you go. It manifests based on the culture and the religious beliefs of the area you're in and the beliefs of the family you're dealing with. You won't get a Hindu demon in a Buddhist family. It doesn't happen. That's not the manifestation you get.
Why is that?
Because these things want to affect you personally.
Mm.
You are their motor. They're feeding off of you. You're the engine. You supply all the power. And when you throw off all that negativity and fear, they feed off of that, manifest more powerfully, and then can do more harm. It's a revolving circle or cyclone of energy that's all coming from you. I have found that it doesn't matter who you pray to, as long as you're praying to God, God hears you. I think of God in a number of different ways, but one of them is as this holy man on top of a mountain. And the only person who isn't getting closer to God is a guy running around the bottom of the mountain telling everybody, you're going the wrong way, you're going the wrong way. As long as you're trying to get to the top, as long as you're trying to reach God, God's happy about that. Doesn't matter which path you take.
Preach.
So as long as you go in with faith, as long as you go in using ritual to focus your intentions, that's all ritual does, is it focuses the prayers and the intentions you're putting out to the universe to protect yourself. And we have a number of different ways we do that. You can learn all about it on our page.
I want to ask this before we get you out of here, Chris, and we obviously really appreciate the time. We're here with Chris McKinnell, director of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research, and the grandson of
Ryan McKinnell's brother.
that too. But
That's
I think I was gonna say, I think we'll lead with the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Listen, Chris, obviously, 40 years in paranormal research, the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren, you have seen some crazy cases, some famous cases. What for you stands out over your 40-year career that still gives you the heebie-jeebies? Maybe famous, maybe not so famous. Again, I'm interested because we don't talk about this so often. So
Sure.
what would you say would stand out after all these 40 years?
I've worked on over 10,000 cases. Most of them I don't remember as soon as I'm done with them.
Yeah.
But The Haunting in Connecticut, that movie, the movie was terrible, by the way, but there was a terrific documentary called A Haunting in Connecticut, which I think you can actually see on YouTube. That was really accurate. That was a devastating case with an incubus. It was attacking this woman sexually and violently. It attacked another woman in the house in a separate apartment. And it attacked her son. It eventually attacked me and my other partner. That was a bad one. Maurice Theriault, we had a successful exorcism, but my grandfather did have a heart attack. And then because we didn't deal with the underlying vulnerabilities that Maurice had, the trauma that made him vulnerable, a few years later, he came under possession again, and he duplicated what his father had done to his mother. He grabbed his gun, he blew the arm off of his wife, dragged her back in the house. She thought she was going to die, just like Maurice's mother. And at the last moment, Maurice seemed to gain control of himself. And instead of killing his wife, he killed himself.
Jeez.
That one has stuck with me. Last year, I was working with a case with a couple in New Jersey. The man was coming under possession constantly. We got the church involved. The church was ready to go. They were sure this was an actual possession, which is very, very rare, but they didn't move fast enough. And he came under possession. He waited for his wife to come home. He said, "F it, I'm going to kill him." And he ran upstairs. He had a noose made out of an electrical wire. He put it over his neck and he jumped off the balcony. When the EMT and the two police showed up, his body reanimated, sat up, eyes completely black, looked at the EMT and said, "He's ours, you can't have him."
Nope.
And then the body dropped dead again.
Nope.
No.
I'm out.
You have symbols. You have symbols behind you, like look like different religions, the yin and yang, the Star of David. Like are there angelic symbols that you can put in your house to keep evil spirits away?
Yes, there are many different symbols that work, but they're all based on your faith. If you don't have faith in it, it will not work. Prayer works, but only if you truly are thinking about the words. If you're just saying, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come," doesn't mean a thing. You have to be thinking about those words. You have to be focused on what you're saying and doing. If not, it's meaningless.
I'm gonna
It's
tell you
all about
something
the
else.
mind and spirit and being focused.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you something
It's
else
really
about
quantum
my
physics at the end of the
grandfather.
day. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I said I'm gonna tell you something else. The man that owned this pipe was a preacher. And
That's beautiful.
I'm sitting here thinking that protection is kept on going all these years. And man, there's a lot of times where I should have not been here. And I actually can see why. Like this is a trip.
Good stuff. Well, I think we can agree. I think now that we've done this, we were together. We were doing this show last Halloween, Mark. I don't know why we didn't do this last Halloween, but I feel like we have to do this every Halloween going forward.
We're growing together. We're growing together, brother.
Chris, brother, this was a great conversation. It's good to see you face to face and catch up. I know you're out there in Scotland taking care of a lot of things. Maybe just tell our listeners, I know you got YouTube, I know you got Facebook. Obviously the foundation is the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. Man, anything else you want to say? I mean, obviously, thanks for giving us a few minutes, more than a few minutes.
Oh, of course, come on, your family. But if you want to learn more, we've got over 75 videos now on the Warren Files YouTube channel. You can also go to warrenfiles.com to see lots of photos of my grandparents and learn a little bit. We're still working on the website. And then Warren Legacy Foundation on Facebook is where you'll find the help you need. If you're in trouble and you need us, just write to us at warrenlegacyfoundation@gmail.com. or go on to Facebook and we'll be happy to help you.
All right, there you go. Chris McKinnell, director of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research, and my big brother. Brother, happy Halloween. Thanks for a few minutes.
I just subscribed.
Mark Henry,
right.
just subscribe.
Hey, Mark,
Cheers.
we're going to get you on that case. We need you.
You got to have faith, Mark.
Yeah,
Let's go. Mark
I
Henry
got
on
faith.
an exorcism.
My
Let's
wife
go.
ain't trying to lose me.
Your grandfather would be so proud of you.
Oh, man. See there, now you're putting the steam on.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna let Mark decompress, maybe go use the bathroom, have a cold drink, take a deep breath. We'll be right back here on Busted Open.